These are what I want expansions for a game to do. Introduce new elements if you like, but make them simple. Hi everyone, welcome to another Beyond the Base Game review. So you will have seen recently I did a full detail review for Rune Stones. Not the newest game out there, but one that I consider to be horrendously underrated. One of my new favourite deck builders that I have in my collection. Well, I said I also needed to talk about the expansions, and that's what this video is here for you. So most of what you see here is from the base game, but I have both expansions in my collection. I even kept the boxes just so I could do this video at some point in my life, so I'm glad I held on to them. But the first one, Nocturnal Creatures, was the first expansion, and the next one after that was the Enchanted Forest. There is also a Queenie expansion you can get, which gives you 2 more Rune Stones. That's cool, it's more content if you can get it, but these are the 2 that I am talking about specifically. So Rune Stones, as you already know, love it. It's a light deck builder where you are playing cards with the abilities on them, but you're playing 2 at a time to get the gems in order to buy these artifacts, which you then use to gather these Rune Stones as well as victory points. And with these Rune Stones, they have game breakery powers that, like give you a new strategy to go for, differentiate you from the other players. But for the main part, it's the case of having to, be really crafty with these cards with really lovely artwork and simplistic abilities, where when you play 2 cards at a time, the one with the highest value trashes out of your deck. So you don't have to worry about artificially trashing your cards. The game does that for you, but you need to buy more cards in order to keep up the momentum of whatever it is you're doing. I love it. I've talked enough about it. Go check out my detailed review as to why I love the game. And actually, I'm not going to spoil the rating, but yeah, spoiler alert, I love the game. But, I gave it a high rating. The question is, do these 2 expansions improve on it? You may also notice that my copy is a little bit pimped out because I've got the E-Raptor insert as well as their overlays for the player boards. The insert, you can kind of take or leave it, but I definitely recommend these overlays. You put the wood bit on the back, screw in the plastic bit on top, and it holds the artifacts and your gems nicely, and it just looks really good and makes them more sturdy. I love these overlays. They turn and they always get attention every time I bring them out. But the expansion, so Nocturnal Creatures Expansion 1. This basically brings in a lot of kind of like Banshee cards as well as these Wisp tokens that you can get for bonuses. It's the easiest expansion out of the 2 and one that you might as well just throw into every single game. I can't think of a single reason you wouldn't just throw this in and forget it was even an expansion. It introduces 2 main elements. First up, you have Bansheets. This is a new card type that goes into the communal deck. And there's 4, essentially, they come in all the different colors, but there's 4 main abilities that these cards have. The first one is a slight bit of Take That. Not a big deal, it's a very small thing and you can see it coming, but basically it nicks a certain color gem from all the other players. Now, when somebody buys the card, you know they have it, the decks are small, you know when it's back in their deck, so you can plan ahead that you maybe should not have a hoard of that color gem if you know that they can potentially nick it. So it's not like a really horrific Take That mechanic, so don't be too flummoxed by that. The next Banshee is an interesting one, Card Switch. This allows you to take a card from the display and actually take it into your hand rather than your discard pile. And even better is that the Banshee trashes itself rather than the higher card of the 2 cards that you played. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1 deal here. You get a card into your hand and it trashes itself. It does mean it's a bit of a one-hit wonder though, but what the hell, it gave you a really good card from the display hopefully, and it takes it into your hand so you have it ready for next turn. Pretty sweet card all round. And then you get the first card that allows you to go through the discard pile. Yes, finally. Normally when they trash out your deck, you're unlikely to ever see them again. Well, now, this card allows you to get a card from the discard pile of your choice, look through the entire lot, and put it into your discard pile into your deck. So it allows you to retrieve those cards that you trashed earlier that you want to get back, or maybe another player has played a card that you thought, that was pretty sweet, I'd like that please, yoink, and you can have it for yourself. And then the final one links into the other part of this expansion, which is the Wisp tokens. The card basically allows you to take a Wisp tile and get the bonus. What exactly does that mean? Well, let me explain what the Wisp tokens are. There's a little sideboard, very small, where you put these tokens on. And there's only a few here, but there's more in the box. And essentially, they all have a bonus on them. So, roll of the die, get 2 cards, get 1 from the display, 2 victory points, roll a die, get some gems, whatever. Very standard bonuses, nothing particularly complex. And the idea with these is that there are these little Wisp markers that you put on the victory point track around the side of the board randomly. You flip them over at the start of the game and only 3 out of the 10 are actually Wisps. And so it could appear like right at the start, it could be spread out, they could be all at the very end of the victory point track. It differentiates every game. The idea is when any player, not first come first serve, when any player goes over a Wisp token, they get to look at this board and take one of the 4 that's available and resolve its bonus. That's literally all it is. It's just another bonus. But it accelerates the game a little bit because now there's 3 bonuses that you got that you didn't before, which could help you, shorten your strategy by a turn or 2. But the fact is I really could use more cards, but I don't want to spend time buying them. Well, hang on a minute. There's a Wisp token here. Now I get 2 cards from the top of the deck into my deck. Sweet. I'll take that instead. That way I don't have to waste time buying cards. It's very simple, and you can pretty much throw this into any game and forget it was even an expansion. It's so simple. Now, that is literally what the expansion does. You've got a small rule book, you've got the different languages as usual, but there's literally 3 pages of rules for this. So easy. A minor change for the setup, and then it tells you what the 4 different Banshee cards do with pictorial examples, and then tells you what all the Wisp and Night tiles do. That is literally it. That's all the rules. So simple. There is no reason not to grab this and have it with the game at all times. Does it take the game from, because alright, spoiler alert, I gave Rune Stones a 9, okay? You're probably watching that video before you watch this one. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Does this elevate it to a 10 out of 10? No. It is an improvement on the game, and it's definitely nice to have more variety, but it doesn't change up much apart from just accelerating the game slightly and giving you some more card types and bonuses. That's about it, really. It's not like a revolutionary change, it's mainly more of the good stuff, but because it's so easy to throw into a game, there's no reason not to have it in the game. Just teach it with it, it's not going to confuse anybody, and the abilities on these Banshees are pretty straightforward in how they work. Well, maybe the card switch one is a little fiddly, but the example in the book is all you need, and it should teach you what you need to know. Now, before we get into the second half of this review, please consider leaving a thumbs up on the video. It means the world to me to know you appreciate the content. Also, don't forget that this channel is sponsored by Zatu.co.uk. In the description, you will find a code for 5% discount off anything you purchase off their website. If you like the sound of this game or anything else I've reviewed on the channel, and you want to save yourself a bit of money while purchasing some great games, consider visiting Zatu.co.uk and making a purchase today. Now, on to the rest of this review. So with Nocturnal Creatures out of the way, let's move on to the second one. Now this was a lucky find for me. I didn't even realise there was a second one. This just came out of nowhere, and it's like, there's a second expansion for Rune Stones, I must have it now! Gimme, 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 gimme! And I found it on eBay for the normal price. I don't even know if there was any retailer that had it, but if Rune Stones is going to get reprinted in September, which is what I'm hearing on the grapevine, then hopefully it means that the expansions will be easy to find as well. But the Enchanted Forest I grabbed, and this is another kind of modular expansion, a bit like this, with this one you kind of have to throw everything in. One of the Banshees uses the Wisp tokens, so to not have the Wisp tokens would make one of the Banshees obsolete, so you are basically throwing everything in here. This, on the other hand, has 2 main modules, and you can actually play them independently of each other. And I can see the reason why you might leave one out. Not because it's bad, but because obviously if you start throwing everything into this game, you might think, well, hang on, is this taking it out of the gateway level? Is it making it a bit too complex for new gamers? We'll see. Well, first up, let's talk about that slightly tenuous bit, the familiar board. Here, what happens is that you have a sideboard, so another board, it's got a big little like gnome dude on the back, and you have another token, a familiar, a little animal that goes along this track. And there's points at the end of the game for how far you get, as well as being at the end. But the main thing is that as you play cards, you can choose to ignore the ability on a card, or both of them, and if you do, you move further along the track. You get extra gems, roll the die, extra cards every now and again just by going over spots, but the red spots are toadstool tokens, which are these things. Again, there's more in the box, I've just got a few here. And what these are is that they're similar to the Wisp tiles in that they give you a cool bonus, but you keep these. So you keep them like face down in front of you until you need to trigger them, and then you get the respective bonus. And these are a bit more intricate than the Wisp token ones. I mean, you've got ones where you can sort of turn gems into wild to get a free card, but they last for the turn. So you can, for a whole turn, make your blues wild, for example, or all your gems wild, sorry, not just the blues. But then there's really cool ones like For the turn, you get to copy the effect of an opponent's Rune Stone. On this turn, you get to keep both of the cards that you play. You don't have to trash any. On this card, you can buy pretty much any card for all the mana points that you spend. And there's even one that allows you to copy a card that an opponent has just played and get its ability. So these are pretty nice like bonuses to get, but you get to hang on to them until you're ready. So it's a nice little addition, but I will say that it's, oh yeah, one thing to mention first, there is also, I can't find a token for it, but the bonuses on the board, which you get for forging certain artifacts, you get a new bonus tile which goes above the second smallest one that normally has no bonus, and if you buy that artifact, you also get to move one space along here, which is pretty good, and it's really the main way you'll move along this spot, because it's not often you want to skip the ability on a card. But this is a nice addition, but I wouldn't say it's a fantastic one. I throw it into every game because I like to have everything in there and I think it's very simple rules, but it's not a game changer. These bonuses are nice and it's cool to have them, but it's not much incentive in here to be all the way along the track to get to the end to get the free bonus points. There's 8, 5, 3, 1 points for being first, second, third and fourth at the end, but that's not a huge differential. I mean 8 to 5 to 3 to 1, so 3 points more than one player, 2 points more than another, and then, you know, I don't feel like this endgame scoring for the familiar board really changes the outcome of the game that much. Most of the time, 1 or 2 players will kind of be in the lead and close to the finish, and then the familiar board doesn't change things. Now, maybe that's because I've got the home field advantage, so I know the game better, so I tend to win by a larger margin, so this doesn't have much of an effect. But there have been games which have had close calls, but this was before I got this board, so maybe it would have more of an effect then. Maybe your experiences are different, but I like it more for the Toadstool tokens. These bonuses are really cool and not to be underestimated, and it's a nice little addition that fits with the setting of the game. So this board you can take or leave. I like it and I throw it into every game, but it is modular and separate from the other part of this expansion, so if you wanted, you could just put it to the side and bring it in the future game. It's entirely up to you. It's cool, but not much of a game changer. I wish maybe the points on this board were a little bit more important, making people focus on it more. But here's the real reason you grab the Enchanted Forest. The real reason why this expansion is a must-buy for this game, more so than even Nocturnal Creatures. You can throw this into the game and forget it was even an expansion, which is all well and good, but it's not a game changer. This is, because what you get is more Rune Stones. Yes, you get 8 more of these things. So the previous time you only had 8, and I said the replay value was a little bit of a hitch up because you were going to see them every single game. Now with this you have 16 Rune Stones. 18 if you've got the Queenie expansion. So you now have all these different abilities that can go off. And how do you set the game up? Well, take the original 8, take the new 8, pick 8 at random and say those are the 8 we're using in this game. They all work, they're in the book and they're fully explained, so you can check which setup one you like. But here's the real good one to use. You get a bag. You take 2 of every single Rune Stone and you shove them in the bag, and then at the start of the game you put 1 out on each of the 8 Rune Stone spaces, and then as one gets taken, you replace it with another one from the bag at random. So now you have all 16 to 18 different abilities potentially available in a game, but they'll come out at different times. You might not see an ability in the entire game. You might see both copies of the same ability turn up at the same time. You might only see it turn up once, so you're thinking, I really could use that ability, but if I don't grab it now, somebody else might nick it and then I may never get the chance. You may think, I want this one, but then, oh, another one's turned up, so that's okay, it's safe, but then there's only so much selection out there, but then it could be a case that I really desperately need this, and it's like, I must get it now, oh, it's gone, oh, I've got to adapt, and then you may never see the other one. It's such a cool way to do it, and I use this setup every time. This is easily the best way to set up the game now with all the Rune Stones. And the Rune Stone abilities are really cool. I think I've got them all here, but I'm just going to go over like the sort of majority of them. One here, for example. Whenever you play a card that costs gems to use, you discount by 1 gem. Very nice. You've got... I'll come back to a couple of these ones actually, because I do want to mention those. One of them I have a slight issue with. But let's see, you've got one here. Oh, this one's really popular. When you play both cards, like the 2 cards, you can choose to resolve one of them twice and the other one not at all. Well, that's a really cool one to have. You've then got, whenever you roll the die, you can pick which face it's on. that can be pretty powerful if you've got a lot of cards that involve rolling the die. Let's get the rest of them out of the bag here. Right, here you go. You can get maximum 3 artifacts forged in a turn instead of 2. People sort of look at this one and go, that's not particularly powerful. Yeah, you try this one and see if you've got a decent gem income. Get this runestone, it really does speed you up. At the end of your turn, you can discard as many cards as you like from your hand and redraw back up to 4, because normally you don't do that. Very handy. What else have we got here? Is that all of them? Yeah, I think that's all of them. But here's 3 in particular I need to kind of talk about, because 2 of them I'm fine with, 1 of them I'm a little bit dubious about. Here's a good one. When you forge an artifact, and that gets you a bonus, so the 3 points, the forge token, or the roll of the die, you get to draw a card. Okay, that's pretty cool. You know, you get to draw more cards for just 14 artifacts. I like it. I like using it. You've then got one which says whenever somebody else forges an artifact and gets the bonus, you get a little bonus as well. So you can get a forge token, a gem of your choice, or a point. It sounds powerful, and it is powerful, but it's not game breakery because the opponents still have to forge those ones with the bonus. You know, that's fine. I haven't got a problem with that. But here's where it gets a bit ridiculous. So much so that whenever I play this game, if I'm playing with more than 2 players, this runestone is actively banned from the game. I think it is way too powerful. So you might think, well, that cuts a bit of the variety down. Not really. I mean, I've still got 15 runestones to pick from, 17 when I get the Queen expansion. 1 less is not gonna kill me. But this runestone says that when another player forges any artifact, not one that gets a bonus, any artifact, you get a forge token or a gem of your choice. In a 2-player game, this is not too bad. There's only 1 other player forging artifacts. But in a 3 or 4-player game, this runestone is outright broken. Like, completely broken. This one lends you so much gem income, it's ridiculous. The last player to use it completely wiped the floor with everybody with this 1 runestone alone. Because if you imagine 3 other players could be forging artifacts on that round, that's 3 extra gems you get. Most cards can't even get you 2, and yet this one basically gets you 3 for doing diddly squat, and it's with any artifact. Not the ones that just get you the bonus like the other 2 I mentioned. No, this is any artifact, and the rules do not stipulate, they explain every single runestone, so it's very easy to tell what they do, but it does not stipulate that its restriction is 1 per round. When another player is performing the action, the player may take any 1 gem or no wild gem. If the other player forges more than 1 artifact, the player still only gets 1 gem. So yeah, if they forge multiple artifacts, you don't get 1 per artifact. Whoopie-doo. The gem income for this is just too much. I am probably going to use it in my games, but I'm going to house rule that it's once per round. So, you know, if so-and-so next to me takes the runestone, I forge an artifact, they get a gem. If any of the other 2 players at the table do it in that same round, they don't get an extra one. And then when it gets back to them, it resets. I'm probably going to house rule that in because otherwise I won't use that runestone because it is proven to be way too powerful. Most of these other ones require you to do some work in terms of like getting the right cards or getting maybe a couple of runestones together. But that one on its own just completely broke the game on that one. And I think it was just way too powerful and needed a slight tweak. I think that house rule that I've come up with will solve it for me, but I'd be curious to know if anybody else has used that runestone and encountered the same issue. But that little blemish aside, this expansion is a must-buy. I mean, the familiar board is already good, but to have all those runestones and increase the variety of the game, there's no reason not to get this, you know. I mean, you could play the base game a couple of times to see if you like it with the normal 8 runestones, because you'll still get a decent amount of play from those first 8 runestones. But if this is a game you start enjoying, you need to hurry and find this expansion to get those extra runestones, because they are really cool abilities, especially when combo with some of the older abilities. It lends itself to more strategies, more interesting ways to play. So yeah, 2 expansions for this game. One that is pretty much an auto-include and you'll forget it's even an expansion. It's so easy, but it's not a game changer. And then you've got one with 2 modules that you can separate, one of which is fine, I always use it, but it's not essential, but then one module that is essential and you really want it for this game. So it's really hard to say which is better, but personally I would say the Enchanted Forest, mainly just because those extra runestones are a godsend to the game. But they're both solid. These are what I want expansions for a game to do. Introduce new elements if you like, but make them simple. But mainly I just want more of the same. So this gave me more cards and some cool ways to get bonuses, and this gave me a little new mechanic with some bonuses, but gave me more of the good stuff with the Rune Stones. They're fantastic, and with both of these included in the game, Rune Stones elevated to a 10 out of 10 for me. I mean, it's a 9 out of 10 with the base game alone because of the slight hitch up with the replay value, but as soon as you throw these two in, it's a 10 out of 10. And if you're going to improve the game for me anymore by bringing out more expansions, just give me more cards, give me a few more Rune Stones, give me some more of the Toadstool tokens, some more of the Wisp tokens maybe, and I'm totally happy. This game doesn't need any more mechanics. It can just always benefit from more variety. So yeah, love these expansions. They're easily like Seal of Distinction level expansions. They're definitely worth getting, particularly Enchanted Forest if you're a fan of this game. Love it to bits. So that's it for me on this Beyond the Base Game review of the Rune Stones expansions. I've now covered everything that there is to know about this game in my 2 videos, so hopefully you now understand why I love it so much and why I believe it's an underrated title. So that's it for me. I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple video. If you like what you see, then please comment on the video and leave a thumbs up. It means the world to me to know that you appreciate the content. Don't forget that this channel is sponsored by Zatu.co.uk. When Rune Stones comes back into stock, maybe they'll have it and you can grab yourself a 5% discount by using my code in the description. Failing that, just go buy any game you fancy and use my code and get that discount. Games are getting more expensive and we need to start saving some money. If you're interested in other content, you can check out the Rune Stones review that I did. I'm surprised you haven't watched it already if you're tuning into this video. But of course, you can also watch my review I did of Cryptid, a very cool light deduction game from Osprey Games. So without further ado, I'll see you next time. And remember, it's only a game. Bye for now.